Thanks, Anton. For my last time, good afternoon, everybody. I'm really grateful to Fidelma for giving me the opportunity to address this really important and seminal event this afternoon, where the Diabetes Clinical Trial Network is launched. I'd like to echo Fidelma's thanks to the HRB for their investment in the CTN. These are really transformative investments. In my previous role, I was a part, and indeed continue to be a part of the Critical Care Clinical Trial Network, which, since it was initially funded and supported by the HRB, has gone on to have a major impact on Irish academic medicine. It has leveraged significant additional external funding. It has better connected Ireland internationally, and it has delivered a set of outputs that network, but also all of us as an academic community, can be proud of. So the HRB's foresight in establishing clinical trial networks should be acknowledged. And I'm very grateful that we're now at the point of beginning a new story of success in clinical trial networks in diabetes. And as director of the just launched Institute for Clinical Trials, it's my pleasure here both to be here to contribute, but also to commit in front of everyone the fullest support of the Institute to Fidelma and the Diabetes-CTN team. We'll be with you on your journey, Fidelma, over the coming years. I'm always very interested in why we create structures and how do structures really impact things. And like a lot of domains over the last number of years, funding agencies in particular have spent a lot of time thinking about funding instruments and measuring their impact. There was a 2013 paper in the area of oncology in particular that is useful as it directs us, because it certainly sets out that CTNs are groups of clinicians, health professionals, researchers, patients who come together to collaborate to conduct trials in a defined discipline or area. They publish high-quality, multi-site clinical trials. They generate additional value by creating education programs, by creating additional opportunities. And that 2013 paper I mentioned in the field of oncology demonstrated a couple of things. It told us that trials that are conducted by CTNs are more likely to be successful, in other words, recruit to target. They're more likely to influence guidelines and government directives due to their rigor, their size, and their power. If we think about those three concepts just for a moment, we quickly realize that in many cases, we never will have enough rigor. We won't have the size, and indeed, we won't have the power if we work alone. So by aligning groups into trial networks, we achieve that goal. And in fact, there's additional extra evidence from an Australian study that CTNs also tend to pick research questions that are more relevant, that are more pertinent. I think that's largely because if you put a group of academics and researchers and clinicians and patients in a room and you kind of force them to collaborate, you end up with a much better set of research questions. For those reasons, there's quantitative evidence to show that CTNs tend to have higher success rates with grants, and their findings are often published in high-profile medical journals. And I think that's something that the HRB are certainly looking to achieve by creating the CTNs, and that's been my experience previously. And if we reflect on those elements for a moment, it's clear that the Diabetes-CTN is perfectly positioned to have a really significant impact on the clinical research landscape, on our universities and hospitals, and of course, on our patients. Indeed, the track record of the investigators in the CTN speaks to that. I spent some time last weekend. I use SciVal all the time. SciVal's a system that tells us about publication impact. And I tend to go to SciVal to try and understand where groups are at. And Fidelma, I must say, the team you have assembled are incredibly impressive in terms of their research outputs. I guess Una, the HRB, agreed. The Australian Clinical Trials Association also has some interesting guidelines on trial networks, and they're a very interesting read if anybody ever has some time to do that. And over the weekend, I read them again because I knew I was being asked to talk specifically about the CTN. And what they said is there's a core set of ingredients, that a checklist almost, that you can go through to make sure a CTN will work. And they don't work all the time. But to reflect on that checklist, they said that collaboration and collegiality are vital, including sharing credit for success. These are not occasional and they're not kind of promiscuous linking with others. These are something that are much more strong, much more deep. They tell us that CTNs generally, better than anything else, align the best interests of researchers and patients. CTNs create an environment of equity where anybody within the CTN can propose the next trial. We're not leaving it all to Fidelma to roll out the next set of studies. It also reflects the economy of scale that comes from having a shared infrastructure. And most importantly, and certainly most importantly from my perspective, is that they enhance efficiency. They coordinate potentially competing trials and prioritize research questions. And the area of competing trials is a real problem for us in academia. We often open too many trials when we do it in a haphazard, non-directed way. CTNs overcome that. And I think against all of those points, and certainly as I reflected over the weekend, I believe Fidelma and colleagues are perfectly positioned for success. I think they've considered all of those and they are well on the way. However, it's also clear that CTNs, to be successful, require a readily available set of supports and infrastructures which they can access to deliver their research programs. Yes, they will generate highly relevant, high priority research questions, but are we enabling them to answer those? It's clear the support from the HRB goes some way to doing that, but there is also a significant amount of additional support that's needed. The DC-CTN is well advanced down that road, but again, I want to commit the resources and the support of the Institute for Clinical Trials to realising that goal. We'll stand fully behind your investigative efforts and we'll make sure that we provide all of the support you need to be successful. The DC-CTN is a safe bet. It builds on a significant track record to date. I know Fidelma is going to talk about the eMERGE trial that she has led, supported by Martin O'Donnell and Andrew Smith, Declan Devan and many others in the course of the afternoon. I won't talk too much about it, but I will say it's a shining example of how investigator-led trials can be developed, designed and delivered from a university setting. The trial will impact patients and will be rightly seen as the best of Irish academic medicine. So to conclude, I wish the DC-CTN, its leaders, its researchers, its patients and everybody involved the very best. You have a phenomenal leader in Fidelma who truly is a leader of academic medicine in Ireland. And under her leadership, I have no doubt you will be successful, that you will deliver a trials programme of quality and scale over the coming years. And as I say, I'm here to support. Thank you.